Houston, our instruments are showing that we have a incoming message from deep space. Repeat, Houston, we have an incoming message from deep space. Houston, we'll begin playing message now. Houston, we're going to try and translate that up here. Hold for translation. Translation complete. We'll begin playing message now.
Hey, it's me, Melissa.
What do you do when the aliens invade? Take a shot of MK Ultra and watch Melissa Jade. Put on your tinfoil hat and tune right in. We got that crime spree, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, a complex Mandela effects, unidentified objects, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all been understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Aliens is on the sun or in Area 51. Time travels, unravels, haunted castles, cops are baffled, potential experimental thoughts that make you transcendental. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Crime sprees, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, complex Mandela effects, unidentified objects, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all been understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa.
Hi, guys. Hi, Grandma Cece, Mia B, Hippie Chick, K-Braze. Hello, Amber, Pointer Lover, Lisa Corinne. We have Kathy R, Seek Justice, My Snot Rocket, Tiffany, Hippie Chick, Natasha, JMs, Tony, Forgets and Shiggles. Poor Linda. Nope, not today. Petunia says, hello, everyone. I am completely in the dark on this case, but I know Melissa will explain it. Absolutely. You don't need to know anything about it. That's kind of what I'm here to do. Hey, Shakto. What's cooking? Hi, Harlot. Hi, Chezzy. Chezzy says, if you don't know Stephanie Harlow, I feel like you two should collab. I do. Well, I don't personally know Stephanie Harlow, but I've definitely watched Stephanie Harlow's coverage on things. Hi, Fur Coat Mama. She's a round Pointer Lover. I think if she's gonna wake up, she should pop in. Hi, Jen Gilcher. Hippie Chick. It is. It's a Shakto. Hey, Shakto.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. So you don't know much about this case either, right, Shakto?
No, you just told me about it.
Yes.
That's when I found out. I didn't know anything about it.
I just heard about this case back. It was over on Deets on the Streets when she was live, and she mentioned this case. And then I know Jonesin has covered it. And how I have not heard of this case before, it's just mind-blowing. It kind of went right under the radar. It happened 9 months ago, but the autopsy report just came out in March. Good, Pointer Lover. I'm kind of glad if people don't know about it, because I'm excited to kind of do an overview. And this is definitely going to be a more than one live type of case. We'll continue on with it. But just for today, I want to give you guys a breakdown, a timeline, what we know, the events leading up to Noah's passing. And then we could do more in the future and kind of deep dive into it, because there's a lot. Hi, Amanda. Thanks, Melissa, for doing all the work so you don't have to love your... Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you being here. You never... Amber, it's crazy. Hi, Meta Mom. All right, good. You know everything about it, 87? I don't know how I haven't. It's a bizarre circumstances one, and it kind of just went right under the radar. Hi. I don't know how to pronounce this. Aim a lame a ding dong. Welcome. That's a fun name. Okay, so before we get started, I want to bring your guys' attention to the missing child of tonight's live. And the missing child that we're going to be focusing on for this live is, hold on. Christina Ann Knorp, and she has been missing since September 30th, 2023 out of Tucson, Arizona. She is 17 years old. Here is another photo of her, and it says both photos shown are of Christina. She may still be in the local area, or she may travel to New Mexico. Christina's hair may be dyed blue and green. So if you or anyone you know has information on Christina's whereabouts, please contact the Tucson Police Department in the phone number in blue. So this is our missing child for tonight. Really? That's how exactly. Oh, my old one is Amy Elizabeth. Gotcha. East Texas chick says, I know a lot, but many questions. Hey, Anyanka, lots of questions. And I appreciate every single one of you who are being here for this live. It's one of these cases that's going to make your head scratch. It's really going to make your head scratch. So basically, before I pull up the article that I think does a really great outline of it, Noah Presgrove was a 19-year-old, very handsome boy. I have his photos up on my background right here. He passed on September 4th, 2023. So it was like Labor Day weekend. And he was at a 4-day party with his friends. Yes, 4-day. And it was heavily documented on social media. And we know these cases that with social media and a lot of documentation, it makes it even more kind of interesting because you could follow the events of the night. You can see, when they're in these videos, it was being posted on Snapchat. And it's kind of similar to the Idaho case in that aspect. And then all within basically an hour, something goes terribly wrong. And Noah not only ends up deceased, but he ends up deceased in bizarre circumstances. He is found in the fetal position on the side of US 81 with insane injuries to his body, with his teeth located or surrounding his body on the highway. And to this day, they have no idea what happened to Noah. And so we're going to go through what led up to these events, the event itself, and what we know so far.
Yeah, he was found by a trucker on the side of the highway.
Yes. Yeah. Brent says, I am here to be informed and entertained. Dance for me, my YouTube monkeys. Yeah, it's bad, Natasha. Yes, his teeth. And I'll show you guys because they even had a circle where his teeth were found. But they are pretty certain. Here's the thing. Here's the kicker, right? They're pretty certain that where Noah was found is not the location he died. He was placed there. Yet they also just came out recently and said that they are not investigating Noah's death as a murder.
A homicide.
So it's like, okay, then was it an accident? Yes, Harlan. We're going to go through it all. It wasn't an accident. Did they place him there? What happened? And he was supposed to be surrounded by all of his best friends. He was in the fetal position, but his injuries, you guys, just wait until we go through his autopsy report because his injuries are horrific. But I will give you guys a trigger warning now. This live is going to include sensitive information that may be triggering to some people, so viewer discretion is advised. Yes, no murder for Linda. Have you, Neat Noodle? Okay, so let me pull up. This is a pretty good overview. So like I said, it was a 4 days worth of a party, okay?
Over Memorial or Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend. It was one of the girls' birthday parties. So they were partying 4 days straight. Hi, Chris. Hi, Aries. It's going to be hard. It's a lot. I don't even know where I'm at yet. But so it says, not Robert De Niro. Hold on. Did I click on Robert De Niro? I think I just did. Oh my goodness. Hold on. I love you, De Niro, but not right now. Okay. So this article also details what his friends say happened in the hours before he was mysteriously found dead on the highway. But it also just does a pretty good overall breakdown. And this is last year, Bryn. So this is 9 months ago. Okay. Hi, Princess Scary. And we're going to go through the videos of Noah's last moments that were documented. We're going to go through it all. So Noah Presgrove, 19, was found dead on a desolate highway on September 4th. Hours earlier, he was at a 4-day party with friends at a house a mile away. Mystery surrounds the case, and his friends all claim they know nothing. Okay. So, friends of a teenager mysteriously found dead on a lonely highway give wildly inconsistent stories about his last hours alive. Noah Presgrove, 19, was wearing only shoes and the 2 wrong shoes.
Yep.
When his body was discovered on a desolate stretch of US 81 near Terral, Oklahoma on September 4th, he was naked.
Yeah, he was completely naked with the exception of the mismatched shoes.
Completely naked with the exception of 2 different types of shoes on, okay? Hi, Mandy TNT.
One was an Adidas and the other was a Hey Dude.
That's a Hey Dude, yep. Now they know which Hey Dude. It was another party goer there at the time. We'll get into all that. But yeah, they were 2 different shoes.
Different brands.
One was his Adidas slide-ons. One was a Hey Dude slide-on, okay? So he was last seen alive about a mile away from where he was found at a 4-day, 22nd birthday party with friends over the Labor Day weekend that was heavily documented on social media. But what the wild videos and drunken photos leave out is how Noah suffered massive head and upper body injuries that led him to die from internal bleeding. Presgrove's cadre of close pals, still raging well into that Sunday night, consistently claimed they had no idea how he died or if they were even awake when he did. So this is Noah. He is so handsome, so young. It is absolutely heartbreaking. Apparently, he did put on 2 different shoes, Aries, but this is where the struggle is going to come in between the events and hours leading up to Noah's death. A bunch of things apparently happened, but it's been very inconsistent. So I'm going to give you what we know so far, but you're going to be left with a lot of questions. He's a very good looking kid harlot. So, leaked texts and unearthed social media comments, and this is why I like this article because it includes it all. Leaked texts and unearthed social media comments show chaotic and constantly shifting competing narratives that have fueled sinister rumors and turned the little town on the Texas border into a tinderbox. The rough series of events that emerges is that after 2 nights or particularly heavy partying, Presgrove and several others took an ATV for a drunken spin and flipped it. So apparently hours prior to Noah's death, him and his friends took an ATV and literally flipped it and spun it out, okay? No one was hurt, but Noah was dirty enough that 2 of his friends gave him a shower and he changed into a different pair of shorts. And you're going to need to know this for later, okay? This is what apparently happened. He got into an ATV accident and he was dirty. 2 of these party goers gave him a shower and put on a different pair of shorts. And then Noah allegedly argued with the birthday girl about whether he could sleep in her bed. After being told no, Noah apparently wandered off from the party to clear his head, and he wasn't seen again until a passing motorist spotted his body and called 911 at 5:53 a.m. Now, apparently, according to the party goers, his friends, Noah was seen leaving about 3:15 to 3:30 a.m. Okay, and he was spotted at 5:53 a.m. by a passing motorist who called 911. Oops. I have Keisha in my background. Okay. So this is Noah with his parents. That's his dad to the left and his mother to the right. Hi, Citizen Sleuth. Little Red O. Hi. So this is a text from his best friend. And again, this article is really good because it has all of the screenshots and everything. So his best friend, Jack, was at the party, but he was apparently sleeping at this time. But they include screenshots of conversations people have had with him. So this is Jack. And Jack says, he wasn't beat up. You know, I loved him more than anyone, and I want justice for him so bad. He deserved it. But I'm really still thinking it had something to do with a hit and run. So apparently they originally thought it was a hit and run. Yet investigators came out and said, no, this is not a hit and run. This is not, they do not believe that that is where Noah initially passed. But that hit and run narrative kept going. Hi, Debbie Doodles and Roro and Michelle. So the person asks, what about him being in the shower? Jack says, so according to everyone that was awake, because again, Jack was allegedly sleeping, all of our close friends said that he wrecked my SXS I had there around 3. So around 3 a.m. And he was super dirty and super drunk. So a couple of girls helped him into the shower. And when he got out, he wanted to sleep in the one girl's bed. And she had said no. And that upset him and he walked off. So that's his best friend, Jack, okay? So
the SS side note here is a SXS is a Polaris. It's like an off-road, kind of like a dune buggy.
Like
looking.
ATV?
Yeah. It's not a four-wheeler like the kind you get on and ride. It's like it looks like a dune buggy, like the kind you get in and drive.
I'm not familiar with any of that stuff, so thank you.
Yeah, neither am I, but I just looked it up. Okay.
God.
Yeah, side by side. There you go.
Exactly, Roro. No, you're fine. Interrupt at any point. So, and the whole shower thing is a question. Why was he needed to be helped shower? Was he coherent during the shower? What, like, the details of that are still sketchy.
Yeah.
So it says Noah's best friend Jack, who insists he was asleep, and Jack comes bigger into play later on, guys. He insists he was asleep when the teenager died, summarized it to a friend weeks after the party. And it repeats, all of the close friends said that he wrecked my SXS I had there around 3. He was super dirty and super drunk, so a couple of girls helped him in the shower. When he got out of the shower, he wanted to sleep in one of the girls' bed, and she said no. That upset him, and he walked off. But the details are very much in debate, as is whether Presgrove was killed where he was found or even left the party alive. So it goes into the lost weekend, those days leading up, this 4-day party. The party was to celebrate the 22nd birthday of Avery Joe Combs, whose family are huge landowners in the area around Terral and beyond. Advertised to friends on Snapchat, it was held at her house, one of 3 on a small off the dirt road off the highway, 1.2 miles north of town and surrounded by fields. So it's a very desolate area. The group lived in the various small towns dotted along US 81, including Ryan, Warka, Duncan, and Comanche, or Comanche, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Comanche.
Thank you. Where Noah lived. About 40 people showed up. So this is 40 people who have no idea what happened to Noah and apparently hadn't seen a thing, okay? Coming and going over the course of the weekend, and videos of the increasingly drunk antics popped up online, because again, this weekend was heavily documented on social media, and they were drunk kids, and I'm going to show you guys those videos. So this is Avery Jo Combs, and this is her house that the party was at. So here is Noah and some of the other girls at the party, and this is late Saturday night. Okay. It says these videos, watched by many locals as they were posted, became the only record of the last hours of Noah's life. One of the most crucial was from the Saturday night, showing some of Noah's friends, including Avery, writing their names on his bare buttocks with marker. This is another thing you're going to need to know, guys. So imagine taking Sharpie and they're writing all over his butt and back. Okay. He was 19, Harley.
I'd heard, and I don't want to derail anything, but I just heard that there were many people writing on him.
Yes.
Like it was kind of something they were doing.
Yeah, there was a video of it too.
Yeah.
But you're going to need to know this for when we get into how his body was found. Okay. So at this point, his whole body is being marked up by marker. At some point that night, Noah got into an argument with Jack, his best friend, after the latter, and didn't like that he was huddled in a corner talking to his girlfriend, Carter Combs, Avery's sister. So again, Avery is the one who lives there. It's her house, but her older sister is Jack, Noah's best friend's girlfriend. So Jack says, we argued about girls for a second, then ended up holding each other, crying, telling each other how much we meant to one another. Jack told a friend in the weeks after Noah's death. So Presgrove drove home late that night and showered, but it was not clear how much of that stubborn marker he was able to get off in the shower. So here is a still shot from the video that I'll end up showing you guys. But as you can see, they have Sharpie and you can literally read, it says Avery, it's written on. So if Noah went home to even shower quickly at some point these 4 days, the likelihood that he was taking the time to really scrub his ass with Sharpie, is, I don't.
That wouldn't have come off anyway. Yeah. It would have took several showers to get the Sharpie off.
Right. And it's a hard spot to really kind of scrub. He probably wanted to get in, get out to get back to the party.
Yeah.
So, he wasn't unconscious for this, Harley, because this is a screen grab from a video, and you'll see he's awake, he's alert. Hey, MK. Hi, Jennifer. So it says one of the most crucial was from Saturday night, showing the friends, including Avery, writing their names on his bare buttocks with marker. So this is, again, another screen grab from Jack. And the person says, just curious, what did you and Noah get into an argument about? Just to clear the air. Jack says, when? The person says, earlier. And he said, that day? And they said, just heard y'all got into an argument. Just curious what it was about. Jack says, we didn't argue that day. And the person says, that weekend? It may have been Saturday. And Jack says, but the day before, we argued about girls for like a second, then ended up holding each other, crying, telling each other how much we meant to one another. Okay, I don't want to jump to conclusions here.
It's still early.
Okay. So it says Sunday night, identified in videos by the black shorts he was wearing, involved more drunken hijinks, including Noah daring friends to slap him across the face as they partied under an outside patio at the house. We have videos of this. I will show you guys. So they're basically doing like slap contests, having each other slap them in the face. So Noah had to repeatedly insist that a male friend named Brian Sweat hit him, eventually only giving him a light tap before sprinting away in fear of retaliation. About the same time, a concerning video appeared to show a teenager holding a rifle when Noah visible in the foreground. So in one of these videos with the slap contest, you see another party goer holding a literal rifle. Noah fought at another point in the night with another friend, Mikey, and accused him of hiding his phone. Noah's family claimed Mikey fishhooked him and had his finger bitten in retaliation. But some friends insisted the argument was never physical. The phone was found under another friend who was sleeping on a couch, and the two boys made up. The slap video was posted at 1:42 a.m., according to those who watched it in real time, and was the last known post for about 2 hours. So here is that video of well, here's a screenshot of the video of this is Noah to the left and Mikey to the right, and they're having a little bit of an argument going on. But in this same video is when you see another party goer to the left come into frame with a rifle. Here is that other party goer. So you see him holding this.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it never led to anything because Noah didn't have any injuries involving a gunshot. So it never, but there's some questionable things, and you'll figure it out towards the end when we get to it, but there's some questionable things here. So the ATV accident, you want to read it, Chuck?
The story of the ATV accident is so universally agreed upon that it made it to the autopsy report, along with Presgrove coming out of it unscathed.
So basically, that's one thing that all of the party goers unanimously agreed on was this ATV accident. It was consistent enough that it ended up in the autopsy report.
Yeah. Earlier that night, he was riding in an ATV and he flipped it. But then after that, he was just hanging out at the house. Stephanie Milan, one of the girls who was there, wrote in a Snapchat message to an inquiring local. Like, he turned it on its side, but they flipped it back on its wheels. But the details and what happened afterwards vary wildly depending on who you talk to. Some saying it happened about midnight, and others say it happened about 3 a.m. Jack, who owned the Polaris Ranger side-by-side, said it had to have happened after he went to bed about 1:50 a.m. I took my keys out of the SXS, I say X by X, and apparently Noah came into my room and grabbed them while I was asleep. A bunch of people went and drove the Ranger and wrecked it, he told the Daily Mail in an interview.
See, I think this is a huge discrepancy because I told you guys Noah allegedly left and was last seen between 3:15 and 3:30 a.m.
Mhm.
The 911 call with him being on the side of the road was at 5:53 a.m. So this leaves a short window of a time. So it makes a massive difference whether this ATV accident happened around 1:50, a.m., 1 in the morning, or 3 in the morning, because 3 in the morning is shortly before he was last seen. And this shower he was given was after the accident.
Yeah.
So
right.
that doesn't leave much time. But Jack, again, it was Jack's ATV. He said he was asleep and he had the keys, but Noah had to come into the room and take the keys, and he wasn't awake for any of it. Hey, ATS and Maui girl. So these are the messages with Stephanie, and she wrote, he walked off to clear his head and never came back. Everything else about the story will be released to the news tomorrow. I'm not supposed to say anything. The person wrote, so he didn't take off on an ATV with someone else? Stephanie wrote, no. Earlier that night, he was, and he flipped it. But then after that, he was just hanging out at the house. Like, he turned it on its side, but they flipped it back on its wheels. The person wrote, okay, and the Instagram story about him having a beef with someone is true since he walked away and was mad? Stephanie wrote, no, we don't know why he got mad. No one had beef. But again, it makes a very big difference with this ATV accident. Was he conscious? Was he injured? They're saying he was fine. He was not injured, yet he had to have friends shower him and he was back at the house. That's why it's very crucial to know the time that actually occurred.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is Avery. So apparently Noah argued with Avery after Noah asked if he could sleep in Avery's bed, but Avery refused and told him he had to sleep on the floor, and that's what got him heated enough for him to go walk away and clear his mind, never to be seen alive again. Okay. So it says Jack, again, Noah's best friend, said that he went to bed early because he was going fishing on Warwica Lake about 30 miles north of Terral with his father the next morning. You will need to know that later on. So Jack went to bed early because he's going fishing with his dad in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Noah is generally agreed to be the one driving the Ranger when it flipped. And though he wasn't injured, he was dirtied from when it hit the ground. Carter and Jasmine Milan are said to have helped him shower to clean the dirt off as he was too drunk to do it himself. So how drunk are we talking here? Is he conscious? Is he coherent? Is he talking? Or is he not? These two girls have to bathe him, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Avery's mother, Stevie Howard, wrote in a Facebook comment that a video was posted online that showed the girls showering Noah, though it has not emerged since. Others said that they remember seeing the video at the time, but some of them claimed Noah was barely responsive. So that's very interesting if this video does exist of them showering Noah and Noah is not coherent. So the autopsy report said only a stick figure drawn in marker on Noah's back was still visible on his body when it was found. So let that sink in. All of these kids signed him. You saw the black Sharpie with this girl's name. When Noah's body was found, only a stick figure was found marked on his body. All of the other names are gone. Gone.
Was he naked when they showered him, or did they keep something shorts on him?
He was naked, and then they put these oversized, loose black shorts on him, as far as I know.
This doesn't make sense.
I know.
Weird. I mean, it seems. I mean, I don't know what goes on down there, but it just seems unreal or uncharacteristic of two girls to shower a guy. Like,
yeah.
How, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like something that would happen. Like, let's put him in the shower and take his clothes off, and we're gonna give him a shower.
Yeah.
Like, this is a grown man. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, man. And he did have road rash on his body, per Linda. We will get into all of his injuries.
Yeah.
His injuries are what does not make sense. Okay. Well, I would say washable marker, except you could see 87. At least the one that Avery was writing in was Sharpie. It was black Sharpie. Hi, cutie pie. But we'll get into it. Okay. It's gonna detail everything very nicely for us. So it says, when and how the names and doodles that were scribbled on Noah on Saturday night, along with more on his front, visible in a photo from the Sunday, because it's written all over the front of his body too, were washed off, is still a matter of considerable debate. So we still do not know, when did those get washed off? When did he take that off? Like, it's just not there. After showering, his friend said Noah put on a different pair of shorts, okay? Describe it as being white in the autopsy report and no underwear. Jack described them as loose-fitting wrestling shorts, okay? So here is Jack with his fiance, which is Avery's sister, Carter Combs. Avery and Carter is the house that they're at, okay? Jack is Noah's best friend. So here is a message with Jack, and it says, yes, she just told him, meaning Avery told Noah, he couldn't sleep in her bed because he messed with her friend the night before. And no, by the time he walked off, everyone had left except the Texas kids and like our close friend group. And apparently some other girls that were there left after Noah did, but I just heard about that. So Noah soon after argued with Avery after he asked to sleep in her bed, but she refused and told him, no, you have to sleep on the floor. She told him he couldn't sleep in her bed because he had messed with one of her friends the night before. Jack told a friend earlier this month. The argument upset Noah, and he wandered off into the night to cool off, never to be seen alive again. He walked off to clear his head, but he wasn't mad, and there was no beef. We don't know why he got mad. No one had beef, Stephanie wrote in her Snapchat message. Exactly when Noah left the party is unclear, but his friends gave estimates of between 3:15 and 3:30 a.m. Okay? So the mismatched shoes. Noah was found naked by the side of the road with only a pair of shoes on. The shorts he was wearing having fallen off on the middle of the road nearby. So he was naked, wearing mismatched shoes, and those pair of shorts he was put in after the shower are in the middle of the road, guys. One shoe he was wearing was an Adidas slip-on, and the other was a Hey Dude branded slip-on. Noah couldn't find his other Adidas shoe, and so impulsively pulled on one that was found lying around the house. Alicia Lee earlier this month explained the other shoe belonged to her son, the friend who was asleep on the couch and was earlier lying on Mikey's phone, the kid that Noah got into an argument with because he thought Mikey took his phone. So as you can see, this is a video, well, a screen grab of a video showing that party goer wearing his Hey Dude shoes before he kicked them off and fell asleep. So Noah ended up taking one of this kid's shoes along with one of his Adidas slide-ons, and that's what he was found wearing. The shoes shown on the photo are my son's and are on his feet. He had just had ACL and meniscus surgery and was wearing a pink knee brace, as seen on the Snapchat video. One of these shoes sits on a shelf in my son's closet. The other was found on Noah. When my son went to sleep in this chair that evening, he kicked off his shoes and went to bed. When he was awoken by the sounds of his friends stating Noah was gone, he found his shoe was missing. So now we're when Noah goes missing. Noah's friends said that Noah had a habit of wandering off from social gatherings, and for a while they didn't think that night was any different. Jasmine posted a selfie to Snapchat at 3:41 a.m. with the caption, and I quote, "Well, Noah's missing," end quote, which continues to fuel condemnation almost 9 months later. I just want to make something clear. I posted this picture not knowing that the worst was going to happen, not knowing Noah would never come back. She later wrote in a Facebook post defending herself. It was normal for Noah to wander off. Nobody thought he wouldn't come back. So don't even think for a second just because I posted that means I know what happened to him, because I'm just as clueless as everyone else. And this is the Snapchat post. So as you can see, it's her. And then you have 3:41 a.m. timestamp. Well, Noah is missing. It's eerie, guys. Yeah, I'm going to pull up the actual autopsy report, Debbie Doodles. Don't worry, we'll get into all of it, guys. So at least 100% at 3:41, it's noted that he's missing. And he had to at least been missing for a short period of time at this point for them to know he's missing. You know what I mean? Because think about it. Even when you're at a party, you don't have eyes on the people at all times. It would take a little bit to realize someone's not there, and you have to ask, where is it? Where is it? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So she wrote, I'm sick of it. Noah was my friend, and I loved him so much. It hurts that people could even think that any of us could have done anything to hurt him. We all loved Noah. Someone is really out there thinking they got away with murder because y'all are blaming us for something we didn't do. Jack, Noah's best friend, told a friend that those who were still awake eventually did go looking for Noah, but were still not in fear for his safety. After he was gone for a while, everyone was looking for him. But knowing Noah, I bet he was kidding and didn't let anyone find him. So here's a message of Jack's. And again, it says, after he was gone for a while, everyone was looking for him, but they were not worried at that point, and they just thought Noah was kidding around. So Jack told Daily Mail that his ATV that rolled from Noah earlier in the night was even part of the search. They said they took my Ranger to look for him in the ditches and stuff, but knowing Noah, he was probably seeing everyone looking for him and just hiding out. The friends said they didn't find him and returned to the house. assuming he'd eventually turn up. Presgrove's Noah's family claimed they saw a video of Avery and Carter screaming at each other on the front porch about Noah walking off, but the footage has never emerged. Now that's interesting if that's true. Noah's family saying that there was a video of Avery and Carter yelling at each other about Noah leaving, but they're saying, no, that didn't happen. Okay. Okay, so this is where I'm going to, again, just give you a trigger warning. We're about to get into Noah's body and the injuries, so viewer discretion is advised. Noah's body is found. So Noah was only found when 2 vehicles traveling along US 81 spotted his body by the side of the road in the early morning hours. One was a pickup truck whose driver immediately pulled over to investigate and called 911 at 5:53 a.m. when he realized it was a body. The second vehicle was a semi-trailer that turned around when it reached Terral and returned to the scene, also calling 911. This photo is where Noah was found. So, and there will be a better photo, but between 2 outlines is where Noah's body was found in the field position. This circle right here is where one of his teeth were found. There's going to be 2 circles. His teeth were found scattered along with a necklace he was wearing, and the shorts were nearby. Okay. So around the same time, this is the weird thing. Jack, remember his best friend Jack, who was sleeping? Jack woke up ready to go fishing. Remember, he was getting ready to go fishing in the morning with his dad.
Yeah.
And was told at that time when he woke up, Noah's missing. So Jack figured maybe he got a ride or something. Noah's done that before and got mad and left. He was not one that you usually worry about. I really wasn't thinking anything about it. Jack texted his father, Caleb, at 5:53 a.m. Coincidentally, the same exact time as the 911 call, letting his dad know that he's on his way to meet him to go fishing. So Jack texts his dad, I'll meet y'all at the lake. Can you bring me a hat, please? Someone messed with mine after I went to bed. His dad wrote, okay. So this is Jack's text to his father. This was an old text. And then you see Monday, September 4th, 5:53 a.m., the same exact time the 911 call went in. I'll meet y'all at the lake. Can you bring me a hat, please? Okay. Someone messed with mine after I went to bed. Jack assumed Noah was fine and left for the lake, driving north until he saw the semi-trailer and pickup by the side of the road. Now, you guys are going to need to know this. Jack saw Noah. Jack, on his way to go meet his dad, saw the activity going on, got out, and he saw Noah's body. And I'm going to play for you guys an interview with Jack and what he describes, okay? But he was like one of the first of the friends to
They drove by on the way to the fishing trip. They drove by the scene where the pickup truck and the semi were parked by the body.
Jack did, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So Jack calls his dad. And in a Facebook post, Caleb, Jack's dad, explained how his son called him to tell him that Noah was dead. At about 6:05 a.m., okay? 6:05 a.m., I got a call no parent ever wants to get. And it was short, and it was hard to understand him. I was standing on my boat in my yard. I know exactly where I was when that call came in. I was getting the boat ready. Dad was making coffee. We were very actively getting ready to go to the lake. Caleb wrote that he immediately called his father, even though that's written wrong, because it was Jack who called his father, who was supposed to come fishing with them to call. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Caleb wrote that immediately he called his father, who was supposed to go fishing with them, to call the trip off, but was told to swing by his house less than a mile away to pick him up. He jumped in his wife's car, because it was the most readily available and gunned it. The 40 minutes down the highway from Comanche. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. By the time he arrived, local Jefferson County Sheriff's deputies had already arrived on the scene at 6:18 a.m. and were securing the scene. So this is Jack's dad right here, okay? So Caleb, Jack's dad, wrote that when he arrived and saw the body, he called the teen's father, Victor, to break the horrific news. So Jack's dad called Noah's dad to tell him what happened to Noah, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Police covered the body, Noah's body, with our tarpaulin or sheet and retrieved the shorts, which the autopsy report said were undamaged despite Noah's injuries, from the middle of the road and neatly folded them nearby. Noah's family has claimed that Caleb picked up one of Noah's teeth lying on the road, which he flatly denied. The tooth that was on the road was not moved that I've seen. I watched a police officer circle it with white chalk. I pointed out a tooth to the police. I would not have picked that up ever, he wrote. He also said he was never at the party. Jack's dad was never at the party, as rumors claim, and was at a cookout at a friend's house south of Duncan, about an hour away that night. So the cleanup. Caleb, Jack's dad, said he stayed at the scene for hours until it was cleared and processed before he went to the party house to retrieve his son Jack's ATV. I went to inspect the UTV, but there were no signs of damage or cleaning. It was still very dusty. It's an old UTV. If it tipped, it was minor enough to not leave scratches, he wrote. Meanwhile, Jasmine and Stephanie's mother, Renee Millen, had arrived at the house and run off the remaining party guests and began to clean up. The extent of the cleanup is hotly debated on social media, with some claiming there was a strong smell of bleach later in the day. So here is a map. This is where the party was. This is where Noah was found. It wasn't that far, but again, it's a very desolate area.
That's a mile. That's almost, that's like a mile and a half.
Yeah. So originally it was just Jack with the 911 caller's harlot, but then Jack's dad did arrive on scene. So he was there also. So it says Renee, Stevie, and Caleb insist all that was done was clearing up beer cans and other alcohol remnants. And there was no attempt to hide a crime scene, though. So those are the parents of the kids. They went and they cleaned up the house. They said it was just beer cans and stuff like that. It wasn't like that. It was a bunch of sitting around and crying. And I think people were just trying to stay busy, Stevie wrote on Facebook. By people, I mean parents, because we didn't know what to do. Not to hide anything, but to help our kids. We didn't know how to help them. Caleb said he removed the guns from the house and took them to his house. Then later, I got them to their owners. So Jack's dad not only went to the house and cleaned up the trash and beer cans, he collected all of the guns.
All the firearms,
brought it to his house, even though they weren't all his, and then later returned it, okay?
Yeah.
So there's also conflicting opinions about whether police ever searched the house. Noah's family claimed the Oklahoma Highway Patrol told them that there was no evidence where his body was found linking them to the party house, and no evidence a crime was committed there, so they couldn't get a search warrant. But others claimed police were let onto the property soon after Noah's death and were even shown where the ATV crashed, but never did a forensic search. The ATV was finally sold in April so Jack could buy a boat. And here's another photo of Noah. So, and it says here, what happened to Noah's clothes and belongings is also a source of controversy. His family claims his clothes, including his American flag shirt he wore to the party, but soon took off in the summer heat, were distributed among his friends by Caleb, Jack's dad, as mementos after police examined them, and only his shorts were recovered. Caleb dismissed this as a baseless rumor, but there is no definitive answer about what happened to the rest of his clothes. Noah had just bought a new phone in the days before his death and took the new phone and his old one to the party, leaving the phones behind when he wandered off. These were recovered and examined by detectives, then returned to his family. But his family claimed that Noah's wallet was never found and the last paycheck he got was never cashed. Now, I do find that peculiar. We don't leave our phones, especially younger kids in this generation. You don't separate from your phone. So I could believe wandering off, but you leaving your devices behind, I struggle with that. Kids are connected to their devices, okay? What they think happened. Many locals and some of his family are convinced Noah was beaten to death, whether as a murder or in a fight that went too far, then dumped on the highway. Suspicion has fallen on his friends for claiming that they have no idea how he died, but they insist none of them could ever hurt him. I guess everyone at the party could be lying, but I just can't see it, Jack told a friend last year. I mean, Noah's closest friends. And if everyone was lying, I don't think everyone could be so cooperative with the cops. The OHP earlier this month said it was not investigating Presgrove's death as a murder, but that didn't rule out manslaughter. So this is Jack, okay, Noah's best friend, and we're going to listen to the interview with him. So Jack has recently told friends that he is torn between Noah being hit in the back of the head by a passing truck's mirror or falling or being pushed out of a pickup truck. Now, you guys will understand a little bit better as we get into his injuries, okay? But Jack saw Noah. Jack actually saw Noah at the scene and what his injuries looked like, okay? Suspect in the latter include a group of party guests Noah's friends called the Texas Boys, who were friends of friends and not well known by the core group. I'm 50-50 between a semi and the Texas Boys. Maybe Noah asked them for a ride or something. But even if something happened with them, it was accidental, he wrote. But man, I just can't see any kids accidentally killing someone and not calling for help. Jack elaborated to Daily Mail that he didn't believe they had any reason to kill him or cover up his death. Those were good kids too. If that's what happened, they would have called and tried to get help for him. They didn't really know Noah, so they wouldn't have beef with him. Medical experts have dismissed the truck mirror theory as not explaining Noah's extensive torso injuries and believed much more damage would have been done to his head. So this is the message with Jack. And they asked, why was his body curled up? Because he was in the fetal position.
Yeah, fetal
right?
position. Mm-hmm.
And Jack says, what do you mean? He looked like he was just laying on his side. And they said, when he left the party, did he have any clothes on or just shoes? Jack says he had shoes and just some wrestling shorts. He had just got out of the shower. The person says they said when they found him, he didn't have shorts on. Jack says, I know. They were just loose-fitting shorts. But still, I'm not sure. He only had one shoe on, too. All I know is whatever happened to him happened on the road, which that is apparently not what happened. The tooth, his necklace, you can see where his head hit the ground. So this is why Jack is going to be important, because we're going to have the autopsy report and things that depict things one way, but Jack is an eyewitness to what his body looked like on that scene. And he said you can see where his head hit the road. So it says falling onto his head from a vehicle is considered more plausible. But Dr. Stuart Fisher, an internist doctor with extensive experience in emergency medicine, said he would likely have more significant leg injuries. Jack is convinced Noah died where he was found, and he wasn't moved from a different location and dumped to cover it up. Everyone is saying he was moved after he died. It's impossible. I've seen it with my own eyes. The spot on the road where the back of his head hit the ground. There was a tooth found there. His necklace was all destroyed there. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation called Noah's death suspicious in the days after his body was found. So it says a town ready to explode. As the months wore on without answers, Noah's friends and families, along with concerned locals, grew more restless. Multiple Facebook groups have thousands of members discussing his death around the clock with hundreds of comments a day. Many of them are angry at the friends who were at the party and their families, whom they accuse largely without evidence of covering up a crime. Some of them were even sent threats, to which they responded angrily and many times confronted their accusers on social media, sparking messy, all-in threads of condemnation. This place is a volcano waiting to erupt. There's a lot of pissed off people. I'm worried our small communities are going to erupt in violence. It has potential to be very explosive. I don't want to be anywhere near that fire when it pops off. So here's Jack saying, I've done everything I could to help find out what happened to him. Someone has to know, maybe not you, but how he got his head injuries. He had a lot of different injuries all over his body. There has to be accountability. Jack says there definitely has to be accountability. I know, obviously, he didn't just pass away, but everyone accusing all these kids is just insane. When they say it's not being investigated as murder, they just mean they don't think someone just killed him. Whoever hit him, whatever happened, definitely should get full sentence. Okay? Well, let me take a sip of my drink. Okay. So locals feel OHP released its statement, its first update in 8 months. So guys, this statement just happened, saying the case was not a murder investigation in an attempt to calm tensions. Noah's family also tried to put a lid on the angst after the autopsy report was released. We understand people's frustration with the pace of the investigation, his Aunt Robin wrote on Facebook. This is not an open and shut case. According to some accounts, there were as many as 40 plus people in and out of that party. That makes for a large pool of people to question. A lot of the stories being told do not align with one another. So having to decipher who's telling the truth is a whole other matter in itself. So here's another photo for one of the night. So it's Noah and Jack, but as you can see, Noah has writing all over his body again.
Yeah.
All over his body that was not there when he was found.
So all the writing was gone off of him?
Only a stick figure was there at the time he was found. So his butt was signed, his front was signed, everything was signed.
And then it was all gone magically.
It was all gone.
Like no faded ink. No, I mean, they must have.
And that's what I think, but I'll pull up the autopsy report. The only thing noted is a stick figure.
That's crazy.
I know.
There should be some evidence of ink, left. You can't just scrub a Sharpie off in a day. It's going to stay there.
Well, let's get into those injuries, okay? Oklahoma Chief Medical Examiner Leonardo Roquero ruled Noah died of multiple blunt force injuries, but how he got them was undetermined. His autopsy report released on just May 13th, guys, just a few weeks ago, detailed extensive injuries to Noah's upper body, including 10 broken ribs, serious skull, neck, and spine fractures, internal bleeding, brain and organ damage, and cuts and grazes all over his body. There was one extensive skull fracture running across his head, splitting the middle base of skull into two, and two smaller ones, with police investigators describing his head as being, and I quote, caved in. Okay.
Wow.
So here is a diagram. So he had a 4x2 inch of scalp torn off the bone that was found nearby. So remember when I said Jack is really one of the only eyewitnesses there? This is what he describes as, yes, his body wasn't dumped. I saw where his head hit the ground, yet the amount of blood he lost, guys, versus blood on the scene, there is only one little portion of the road where blood was found. Yet the injuries he sustained, there should be blood. But yes, that portion of scalp that is torn off his skull, it was found near his body.
Would those be the 4x2? Would that be in centimeters? Because I usually read inches.
It says 4x2 inch of scalp torn off the bone. He had bleeding from both of his ears. He had grazes and cuts on his front face, all on that left side and on the inner ear. On his mouth, his upper and lower lips were split. His teeth were broken, and fragments of his teeth were found in his mouth along with on the road. He had cuts on the left side of his tongue. He had grazes across his left eyebrow, the corner of his left eye, the left cheek, the left side of his neck, the right back of the head behind the right ear, and the right back neck, okay? So it says Noah's suffered external injuries to his face and head that night. The most serious was the chunk of scalp that was torn off of his head all the way down to the bone that coincided with the massive internal injuries to his skull and brain that were at their worst at the top and back of the head. The piece of scalp and hair was found on the highway feet away. Many of Noah's teeth were also broken, and some were knocked out and found on the road, okay? She's doing okay, Murder Candy. So now let's go to the internal organ damage. The left atrium of the heart, the left pulmonary vessels, both of his lungs were punctured. There was internal bleeding around the heart, in his chest, in his abdomen, his spleen, and stomach. Noah is believed to have died from massive internal bleeding before his other injuries had a chance to end his life. All up, he lost at least 3.2 pints of blood from 2 punctured lungs, damage to vital organs, and extensive tissue damage. A man of Noah's size has about 12.6 pints of blood,
yeah,
and would generally die after losing half of it, though as little as a third can lead to death. Again, you need to keep this in mind. Hi, Criminal Med. With the lack of blood on
he lost about 25% of his blood.
Yes. Hi, Jonesin. Okay. So he had about 20 milliliters or 0.68 ounces of blood pooled inside his head from a brain bleed, damage to 4 parts of the brain itself. There was also air in both his cranial cavity and spinal cord, extremely rare conditions only caused by massive head trauma. Both of his lungs were punctured, and he had internal injuries to his heart, spleen, stomach, and internal bleeding of at least 1550 milliliters, about 3.2 pints. A man of Noah's size has about 12.6 pints of blood and would generally die after losing half, though as little as a third can lead to death. The skin on the left side of his scalp was torn off to the bone, and a clump of hair and skin was found in the middle of the highway. Additionally, a clump of hair was observed on the right buttock without blood or tissue, Roquero wrote. Both his upper and lower teeth were broken, with few fragments and found inside the mouth, and others strewn across the road several feet from his body. He was bleeding out of his ears and had a cut on his lower lip and one on his tongue. So here are the skull fractures. Look at that he had massive skull fractures, and this is the one that led to his scalp being taken off the skull. The left temporalis muscle damage that was done. The brain bleeding. So he had bleeding above the skull. He had bleeding under the skull. And he had bleeding around the brain, guys. He had damage to brain tissue at the left temporal lobe, the left cerebellum, and deep into the brain stem. So Noah's C1, C2, C6, and C7 vertebrae were fractured to varying degrees, and C1 was displaced. If you guys don't know what C1 is, that is what connects your skull to the spinal cord, okay? So C1 was displaced, indicating a seriously broken neck of the same kind that people who are executed by hanging suffer. He had road rash on his upper back and abrasions from grazes on his left shoulder, left arm, left side of the torso, and both buttocks. Other grazes were on his left eyebrow, corner of the left eye, and left cheek, left ear, right neck, and behind his right ear. Noah had healed abrasions and scabs on his nose, both hands and knuckles, left foot and heel, round healing ulcer on right thigh, all of which predated the injuries from that night. So here is where his neck broke. So the bone linking the skull to the neck broken. The neck broken at C1, and it displaced Noah's skull. The neck fractures at several vertebrae, C1, C2, C6, and C7. Wow. What did you say, Jack?
No, I'm listening.
So Noah's broken back and ribs. Both of Noah's shoulder blades were fractured. He had 10 rib fractures on the back, 9 vertebrae fractures in the upper and middle back, okay? Roquero wrote that there were no vehicle parts or debris observed on the scene, indicating Noah was almost certainly not hit by a car. You ready to be mind blown? There's nothing that indicates he had any contact with a vehicle. Okay? He was naked and was only wearing unmatching shoes. There were a pair of shorts found several feet from the descendant and was reported to be his. Yet those shorts had no damage. So if they got knocked off his body, I would anticipate to see a level of damage to the shorts. Nothing. No debris from a vehicle,
Yeah.
No blood
Sure,
other
right.
than one little spot. Oh, it's hard, guys. Additionally, there were 3 pieces of a white metal chain, as well as part of a tooth present several feet from the descendant. Roquero noted that there was a drawing in black ink of a stick figure person on the side of the right thigh. But where were all the names, guys? That is in his autopsy. There's meat feet. In his autopsy, that's the only marking on his body that's noted. But we know it was all over his front, his butt, everything. The shorts he was wearing were undamaged, despite the grazes on his buttocks, and the slip-on shoes had grass and other debris lodged in them. Okay?
I thought these shoes had no debris or evidence of him being dragged, at the heels. When you grab someone, you drag them.
Yeah.
Their heels are going to drag on the ground. But I heard there were no damage to the shoes, to the heels of the shoes.
It had grass and other debris lodged in them. I don't know about evidence of it being dragged. I'd have to look into that more.
Okay.
So Noah had a blood alcohol level of 0.14, but there were no drugs in Noah's system at the time of his death, okay?
So he was drunk, yeah.
He was drunk.
That's like twice the legal limit.
Yeah.
I believe.
So here it is with his alcohol, and I'll pull up the full autopsy after. All of these: amphetamine, methamphetamine, fentanyl, cocaine, opiates, PCP, barbiturates, benzodiazepines. The EIA panel does not detect oxycodone, methadone, or clonazepam. So none of those were detected in his system. This is the spot Noah was found. Within these 2 chalk marks is where Noah's body was found in the fetal position. The 2 circles are where his teeth were found, near his body. He did have road rash, it said 87. Yeah, just dirt and grass in the shoes, Kayla. Yep.
So they ruled out being struck by a vehicle, right?
There's nothing that indicates he was, unless it happened at another scene and he was dumped here. But they're ruling it out that it didn't happen there. There's nothing there at this scene where his body was found that indicates he made contact with a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So confronting photos of police chalk outlines showed Noah's teeth were found scattered across the highway, some a dozen feet from his body. Farther away still is a spot of blood, the only blood found at the scene, despite the extensive injuries all over his upper body. Think about all of those injuries I just went through. Yet there's only a small little area of blood. I don't think he was using hairspray. They were at a 4-day party, Meatfoot.
Yeah.
And they were just so drunk. And so if he went home to shower, this is what me and Shachter were saying in the beginning, I don't anticipate he would have been sitting there scrubbing the hell out of it. But even on the buttocks, because in that video that I'll show you guys, you can see she's holding a Sharpie. I don't know about the other girl with the white one. But the fact that there's not even residual residue of the mark,
right,
weird to me.
Right.
So Noah's family complained that his friends all claimed to have no idea what happened to him and how he ended up dead by the roadside just hours later. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation described his death as suspicious days later, but few details have been released about the investigation. Even Noah's family said they were in the dark, and the Oklahoma Highway Patrol refused to provide any details to maintain the integrity of the investigation. The longer you keep the truth inside, the guiltier you become. You could aid in getting justice for Noah, his sister Madison said. So this is Noah and his sister, and I have an interview with her that I'll play for you guys also. It is so shady, Vanessa. Oh, in case someone needs to remove it. I was going to say, hairspray takes off Sharpie? I didn't know that. Hi, Akasha. So here again is Noah. He was such a handsome young boy. It is criminal, Matt. Everything is so odd. Everything.
Yeah.
So his family says you could do the right thing and you may receive a mercy that was not given to Noah. But the longer we sit in silence, the worse it becomes for you. I hope those involved see that we are not budging and the silence fuels our desire to know more. I miss Noah daily. This is the hardest chapter of my life, but I am thankful that I have a family that will not give up on each other. Noah's grandmother, Deborah Smith, I have an interview with her too, also called on his friends to tell the whole story about what happened the night he died. When you think you have friends that you trust with all your heart, and then here it comes. Sorry, Noah, that some of your true friends stabbed you in the back, she said. A piece of my heart is missing in every day that goes by, and Noah doesn't walk through that door, and still no answer, just takes another piece of my heart. And this is his Aunt Robin, his grandmother, Deborah. It's just
he has a great aunt named Barbara Pelletrino. So that may be her.
This is Noah graduating from Comanche, and I apologize if someone pronounced it.
That's right, Comanche
High School just a few months earlier, and he planned to join the military. Oh yeah, Lindsay, I'm about to show you some videos from the party. And like I said, they were having slap contests with one another. They were doing stupid stuff. They were young.
Yeah.
So yeah, his Aunt Robin begged anyone with information to at least tell the police so his family would have answers 7 months later. We lost an amazing young man to the horrible choices of others. Please do not let us lose out on justice. We've heard so many different stories, but we have yet to hear the truth, the whole truth, which we deserve. I know it's scary and I know it's hard, but we deserve to know what happened. Noah deserves to have his story told. We will not stop searching and asking. We will not stop demanding. It will come out. So let me pull up. Hi, Coco. Let me pull up the next one I have, which details a little bit more about his injuries, but it also shows the videos from that night.
The kids' party these days is so weird to me. Yeah. It happened in Oklahoma. Actually, on the border of Texas and Oklahoma, but
yeah,
Oklahoma.
Yeah, these ads get you. When you go to press X, it just clicks on the ad. Okay.
I hate ads. Ads are evil.
Yes. So Noah suffered dozens of horrific injuries, from broken bones to smashed teeth, brain damage, and bleeding inside his skull and chest before he died naked by a lonely highway. What is interesting is the lack of injuries to his bottom half, you guys. If it was being struck by a vehicle, you would anticipate more lower extremity injuries along with the upper injuries, yet there really were no injuries to his bottom half. Okay. So he was wearing only 2 mismatched shoes when his body was discovered. He was last seen a mile away at the party. He died of multiple blunt force injuries, but how he got them was undetermined. So His autopsy released Monday. It was just released, guys. Detailed extensive injuries to the teen's upper body, including 10 broken ribs, serious skull, neck, and spine fractures, internal bleeding, brain and organ damage, and cuts and grazes all over his body. Look how handsome he is. I want to exit this damn ad, but it's not letting me.
It's okay.
So I showed you guys these diagrams. So all over his face. But again, another thing I'm noting is majority of the injuries are his left side. Okay. Right? It's on the left. Even though he was bleeding from both of his ears, but that was internal bleeding.
The scalp torn off to the bone. God damn, it hurts.
Yeah. And it was found near him.
Internal injuries, the back injuries, the neck, the internal
organ.
decapitation.
Yep. Okay. So, and the one really bad skull fracture, it split his skull into two. Okay. And his head was caved in.
Punctured lungs, both punctured lungs.
Mm-hmm. And there was air in his cranial cavity and spinal cord, which is extremely rare, only caused by massive head trauma. So both lungs were punctured. He had internal injuries to his heart, spleen, stomach, and internal bleeding of at least 3.2 pints. The skin on the left side of the scalp was torn off to the bone, and a clump of hair and skin found in the middle of the highway. Additionally, a clump of hair was observed on the right buttock without blood or tissue. These were his skull fractures and the muscle damage.
So they found a clump of hair on his butt cheek, basically.
Without tissue or blood.
Yeah, so it was just a clump of hair there. Was it his hair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So he had bleeding above the skull, under the skull, and around the brain. Damage to his brain tissue. Both his upper and lower teeth were broken. Fragments found inside the mouth and others around the body. He was bleeding out of his ears and had a cut on his lower lip and on his tongue. C1, C2, C6, C7 vertebrae fractured to varying degrees, and C1 was displaced. Basically, that's internal decapitation, guys. Which means that you know what decapitation is, but this is an internal decapitation where an injury causes your head to detach from the spinal column.
Right. Without breaking tissue.
Without breaking tissue, yes.
Mm-hmm. Just like comes apart.
Right. He had grazes on his left eyebrow, corner of the left eye, left cheek, left ear, right neck, and behind his right ear. So
do you
as
think it's not to jump to possible? I mean, do you think it's possible that he, because that's what some people in chat are saying, the same thing I've been thinking, is that maybe he rolled over on the ATV and it rolled, kind of rolled on top of him.
Well, that's the hard part, because as far as we know, the ATV did not even have any scratches or anything on it. Mm-hmm. And if there indeed was documentation of Noah after that accident happened, well, that would,
okay, let's say that if the ATV rolled over on top of him, he'd already succumbed to his injuries here. They took him, gave him a shower, and then planted him on the side of the road somewhere?
I don't know.
Or is that too crazy to think?
Okay, so, and it's going to show you, but the friends who saw him at his viewing said it looked like he was beaten by 5 grown men. And yes, there is swelling that happens.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. The swelling would be...
But they said it's not about the swelling. They said they know what it looks like, but to get beat, and his face appeared like he was beaten by 5 grown men. And you'll see the messages. I'll show it. The teeth were as far as several feet from the body. I'll show you the photo again. So this is the part where, again, the skull detaches from C1, an internal decapitation. It's displaced from the skull. These are the neck fractures. Then these are the broken back and ribs, shoulder blades fractured, vertebrae. But there are no vehicle parts or debris observed on the scene, indicating he was almost certainly not hit by a car. He was naked, only wearing the unmatching shoes, and the pair of shorts was found several feet from the descendant and was reported to be his. There were 3 pieces of a white metal chain as well as part of a tooth present several feet from Noah. There was a drawing in black ink of the stick figure on the right thigh. A video from Saturday night of the party showed Noah's friends drawing their names and other doodles on his back and buttocks. He went home and washed some of it off, but it is believed to not have been able to get all of that marker off before he went back to the party the next evening. So he had patchy grazes across the left side of his torso, okay? And grazes of various sizes and shapes on his right arm and forearm, left elbow, right knee, right leg, side of left leg. So now we're seeing some injuries on that lower half, but more they're grazes, not bone breaking or anything like we see from this top half.
God.
External injuries on the back. He had road rash across the upper back. Grazes, his left upper back, left shoulder, back left arm, right buttock, and side of the left buttocks. Okay. The Adidas shoe Noah was wearing was his, and the other Hey Dude slip-on was from that other party guest. The shorts he was wearing were undamaged, despite the grazes on his buttocks, and the slip-on shoes had grass and debris lodged in them. He had a blood alcohol level of 0.14, but no drugs in his system. Dr. Stuart Fisher, an internist doctor with extensive experience in emergency medicine, reviewed the report and said the injuries were so catastrophic and varied that him being mortally wounded in a severe beating was the most likely cause. The poor kid never had a chance. My guess would be injury by several different things at the same time, namely several different people at the same time, he said. He said it was unlikely one person who caused all of Noah's injuries because they were far in excess of what was needed to kill him, unless it was a crime of passion. So now let's go through some of the videos that were documented of Noah leading up to his death.
What was most interesting to me.
Come on. Come on, Shady. Damn.
This range, I will fucking. Dude, I'll just beat the.
These are all a bunch of farm boys.
Yeah.
No, you slapped me. I slapped you. I do trust you. I trust him. I trust him. I trust him. You're really hit me. See, I wasn't old.
Music in there.
Which one?
Yeah,
We got it.
You see my wiener?
Country Pimp. 1-on-1. Mike Tyson.
So they were, I don't know who she is.
Who
Who are you going to tell?
I'm not going to tell
The
anyone.
royal.
Who is that? Okay. So again, this is where Noah's body was found between the two markings, okay, in the fetal position, and he was facing towards this memorial.
Mm-hmm.
The two spots where his teeth and the scalp were found. Okay.
Was his head, I know he was on the fetal position facing the field, his head on the right or on the left?
I'm not sure.
Facing. Okay.
So it says Dr. Fisher was shocked to see there was little mention of blood at the scene, and hear how multiple sources told the Daily Mail that there were almost none when they saw his body lying on the roadside. Really? Well, maybe the body was moved. There would be pools of blood, and if you're not seeing that, an explanation could be that's what happened, he said. Another leading theory police are investigating is that Noah fell or was pushed from the back of a pickup truck and hit his head on the road. It's possible, Dr. Fisher said, but noted the lack of serious injuries to Noah's lower body, which only had a few cuts and scrapes, and there would likely have been more from him rolling on the road. Dr. Fisher said Noah would have bled to death, but his breathing would also have been affected by his torso injuries. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol, which is leading the investigation, 2 weeks ago gave its first update since last September. And again, this is Noah and his sister.
He also has a brother.
Yes.
I believe his name's Dylan.
Yeah, I'll show you guys interviews from them. 3.2 pints, Sarah. Well, I'm sorry. He lost 3.2. I'll have to tell you. I went through the numbers, but I don't know collectively how much. Yeah, this is current. Like his autopsy was just released weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
This
happened September 4th, 23.
Mm-hmm.
Over Labor Day weekend.
The OHP is not investigating Noah's death as a murder. The investigation is not over, and anyone with information on Presgrove's death is encouraged to contact us. This was despite friends and family who saw his body, saying his badly battered face looked like he got beat up by 5 dudes. Not investigating the teen's death as a murder does not mean police have ruled out manslaughter, and detectives are considering competing theories. We would like to publicly thank the team that are working in unison tirelessly to navigate what has always been called as a suspicious death, not a murder, which is killing by premeditation. Noah's family said in a statement.
Manslaughter is kind of like an accident.
Right.
Yeah.
We understand everyone's frustration more so than anyone. However, we ask that everyone be mindful of their dedication and perseverance in finding answers. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation called Noah's death suspicious in the days after his body was found. So where Noah's body was found, where the house was that they were partying, okay? The report also vaguely explains some of the events leading up to Noah's disappearance and discovery. He rode an ATV Ranger vehicle with several men that had a rollover accident. The descendant was alive following the incident and returned to the party where he got into an argument with his girlfriend. Noah left the house party and was not found until the morning of September 4th on the side of the highway. Noah's best friend Jack, who was at the party but claimed he was asleep when he disappeared, said it was his ATV that was in the accident. All of the close friends said that he wrecked my SXS I had there around 3 a.m., he wrote in a message to another friend. And he was super dirty and super drunk, so a couple of girls helped him in the shower. Noah's family said they were confused by the reference to his girlfriend, as Noah was single. Newton explained this in the same conversation. When he got out of the shower, he wanted to sleep in one of the girls' bed, and she said no, and that upset him, and he walked off. And this is Jack's message. Bro, Everyone that saw Noah at the viewing, including me, saw his face was beat up bad. Bro, I know what a beat up face looks like. Definitely not just me saying that. Everyone that saw him said that. Looks like he got beat up by 5 dudes. And I'm sorry, this wasn't Jack's message. This is a friend who wasn't at the party and questioned one of the teenagers in the weeks that followed about what happened to cause Noah's facial injuries. So during the same conversation, the other friend asked how Noah got the horrific injuries he suffered to his face that appeared to be from a beating. Other people who saw the body said it looked like his nose and cheek were broken. The damage to his face, in addition to other injuries to the back of his head and upper body, Noah suffered, and adding fuel to fears he was murdered. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol detectives who are leading the investigation are still unsure how Noah died, and were told conflicting stories about that night. Theories include him forcibly being pushed from the bed of a moving truck, where the blood spot was, and staggering along the road before collapsing. Noah could also have been killed in an accident or murdered elsewhere and his body dumped on the highway. Initial belief was that he was killed in a hit and run, but that was ruled out based on the pattern of his injuries that didn't include any damage to his lower body. Confronting photos of police chalk outlines showed his teeth were found scattered across the highway, some a dozen feet from his body. Farther away still is a spot of blood, the only blood found at the scene, despite the extensive injuries all over his upper body. So again, this is the outline of where his body was. This is where teeth were. This right here is the only blood that was found at the scene. All of those injuries, and this is the only blood, and we're supposed to believe this is where Noah died. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Oh, he had no chance, criminal Matt. He had no chance. What the hell could have happened? Right. And there was Papa Jones, and there was no evidence of any vehicle colliding with his body. There was no evidence of at all being hit by a vehicle. The only thing that we're looking at really is the fact that he was in the road and the extent of his injuries. But yeah, I do find it peculiar that other than the grazes, he doesn't have any broken bones or fractures on his lower half. Oh, you're talking. Not everybody knows about that, sipping on.
Oh, yeah.
That is a peculiar, very peculiar situation, because they were not just drained of their body, of their blood. It goes much farther than that.
Their organs, their
yeah.
eyeballs, their spleen, vital organs, all surgically removed.
Yeah, surgery, exactly. Yeah, Skylark Ranch.
Yeah.
So right here again, very desolate area. There's that only blood right there. That's it. That's the only blood.
Yeah.
So it says Noah and his friends graduated from Comanche High School just a few months earlier, and he planned to join the military. But that weekend, they were drunkenly celebrating the end of the summer with a raging party at the birthday girl's home on a small street about a mile south from where his body was found. One video from the night he died showed some of Noah's friends writing their names on his bare butt with marker. The writing was not still there when his body was discovered in the early morning hours of the morning, but it was not known how or when it was removed. Other photos show the teenager writing on the butts of another friend and posing alongside them with a signature on his chest. 2 more videos show Noah's daring friends to slap him across the face as they partied under an outside patio at their house. I always find it so eerie looking at the last photos or moments before something terrible happens to someone. There's always something very eerie. Like you want to jump through and warn them what's about to happen, you know? But look at all that written all over his body. Listen, if you've ever been written on by Sharpie, you know it doesn't just take one damn shower to scrub it off, because it's always like there. It takes a while. So there he is. This is the girl who posted the Snapchat at 3:41 saying, well, Noah's missing.
It sounds like she just did that in kind of a playful way. Like, oh, Noah's gone. Well, because it was supposedly common for him to disappear like that when he kind of wandered off. Maybe they weren't taking it seriously at that moment.
Yeah. But all right, I want to show you guys an interview with Jack. I want you guys to hear Jack again, which is Noah's best friend, was Noah's best friend. And I want you guys to get a sense of how he's going to talk. All right. So give me 1 second. All right.
News Nation correspondent Alex Capriello has been gathering all of this new reporting today. He joins me live now from outside of Terral, Oklahoma. Really remarkable reporting that you were able to get on both sides of this now what seems sort of pitched debate between these families. Tell me what you learned today.
Yeah, really interesting hearing both sides of the story, one from family, another one from a very, very dear friend. We did the interview separately because I didn't want any sort of contamination of the things that they were going to say to me and their accounting of the story, but really great details from the both of them. I'll show you just very briefly. This is the cross that now stands on the side of the highway. Jack Newton, that best friend who is at the very center of this conversation, is the one who actually placed these crosses here on the ground. The house where the party was actually is less than a mile away that way. So really the story goes, as they are trying to piece it all together, is that at some point, Noah actually just walked down this road at some point and his body was found not far from here. Let's begin with Jack's account, though, because Jack has a very different opinion about what happened than what his family members told me. And at the same time, he also shared new details about what it was like to have so much suspicion surrounding him and what it was like to pass a polygraph test. Take a listen.
I ran over here, asked him if Noah was okay, and the semi-truck driver had his hands on Noah like this. And so I just I could just tell, that he was not okay.
Now remember, Jack woke up that morning to go fishing with his dad. He sends a text to his dad at 5:53 a.m. saying he's on his way. That happens to be the same exact time that truck driver places the 911 call. As he goes to leave and head out, he passes along the highway and sees the activity. So Jack saw what Noah's body looked like. And I do think on his back, criminal med, I do think it's interesting because there's nobody who could give us that insight other than who was there and saw his body on the side of the road. But he did. Yes, Harlot.
He's laying on his side. He just had his eyes closed, And he had a cut on his forehead. Like, it wasn't just like terrible.
Oh, really?
It was just a cut on his forehead. The top of his hair was scraped off his head. And there was blood on his ears. 100% in my heart think that he was hit. I think he got hit on the top of his head by a semi. And that shoe that was on good just stayed on. I don't know. I can't explain any of it,
Is there any part of you that believes that he might have been beaten to death?
No, he was not beaten to death.
Why not?
Because just the injuries You just could tell he's not. I said, okay, I'll take the polygraph test. I took the polygraph test, and I mean, it was nerve-wracking, of course. I had these two things on my fingers. I had a butt pad and then a feet thing, and these things around my chest. I mean, and I didn't even get to look at the guy. I was looking straight forward, and he was talking to me, asking me questions.
There's a lot of online chatter, and I think that's the reason why they're asking for you to take a polygraph test about you and your father. I mean, tell me about what that experience has been like for you to have to handle that type of discussion happening all around you.
I think the reason that I got brought into it is because, I mean, going through high school, you did not hear Jack's name without Noah and Noah without Jack. I mean, we were just always together. I mean, he lived with us for a while, and we were just always at each other's houses. And I think when everybody heard something happened to Noah, they just said, "What about Jack?" And just, I don't know. I don't know where all the crazy talk's coming from. Just sucks.
Do you feel good to kind of be past that a little bit with the polygraph test?
I mean,
do you believe that you're past that or no?
People saying stuff. I mean, people are saying like it's easy to pass a polygraph and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. You can't really control what people say about it. You know, you just know what you know. And I've put my personal number on Facebook and said, if you want to talk about it, I'll talk about it.
So what has these last 7 months been like for you?
I mean, it's always been the hardest time of my life. And on top of other people saying everything, just been the hardest time of my life.
And so if you could tell there from the very beginning of that interview, Jack was one of the very first people on the scene. He tells me that he was leaving to go fishing with his dad when he drove up the road, noticed all the activity, and then saw Noah's body right here, bloodied on the side of the road.
Well, that, you know, Alex, fantastic interview, and so telling, but I'm still.
So he passes a polygraph test. I find it interesting. But what I also find interesting is that he is 100% not beaten. And they're like, how do you know? How do you know that? But he said, just from his injuries, just from the way he looks, and that I'll circle it back around to, there is insight that he can give us from being there. Because, like, even though we have diagrams and we have the autopsy report and we're told, there is something different about being there and seeing it yourself. And I'm sure, because he describes his scalp missing, that chunk of scalp missing. And I'm sure, being that he saw that, that's not being beat, right? You had to have hit your head on something. Now, with that being said, you know, I'm open to anything. I do find that interesting, and I can understand why he would not think it was a beating versus you had to have been. But you guys, there's no blood there. There's no blood there. How isn't there any blood there?
Big mystery to me. No blood, all those injuries.
Oh my goodness. Kaylee's dropping bombs, and I just got done writing your last thing down. And now I got to write this down. Caleb's brother-in-law. Bro. And
I was going to mention that too. There's some law enforcement connections.
I didn't know about the law. That's why I said that we're going to have to do another part to this, because I'm just kind of giving an overview, but I haven't even gotten that deep yet. And this is so interesting. And I was wondering if there was any.
Supposedly, just from what I read, and this is a rumor, nothing's, verified, that some of the people at the party had local law enforcement connections.
That's what I wanted to know without jumping to conclusions or making any accusations. I was just curious. Running for sheriff. Oh my goodness. Thank you for letting me know this. In Stevenson. I should have just took a screenshot. County. Okay. Wow. But he passed a polygraph. Yeah, there would be he lost 3.2 pints of blood. Now, some of that is accounted for in his body cavities, but not all of it. So hold on, let's go through but I'll pull up his full autopsy report, but let me show you his brother. This is an interview with his brother.
His name's Dylan, I believe.
Let's hear what he has to say.
Dylan.
And thank you all so much for being here. I very much appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I can't believe I went this long without even hearing of this case. It is crazy. Okay, so let's listen to what Noah's brother has to say.
Take a listen to my interview with him.
He just said that Noah was in an accident, and so I thought he was in the hospital, you know, and so I come by and I pick up my dad and we start driving down there, and it's only a 30-minute drive from Comanche, but that drive felt like 2 hours just sitting in silence. And then we show up, and Jack and Caleb and the Jefferson County Sheriff was there, and Noah was covered up on the side of the road with the tarp. And it was just kind of a good 10 minutes just staring at fields, just and a loss of words, you know. When we show up there, everything's going through our minds of what in the world could, because it doesn't look like a hit and run sort of situation, you know. And some weeks go by, and we, you know, they finally rule out the hit and run, and that 4-day party turned into something awful that happened within just a short hour time span for him. I believe this is his tooth right here. His pants were folded up on that square mark.
His pants were there.
Folded
his
up.
tooth was right there in that circle.
I believe so, yeah.
Oh my
and
God,
his body was
Jason.
here. And he was
Oh my God.
he was in the fetal position, facing that way, and his body was covered up with a tarp or a blanket type of thing. And as you're looking at it, you can see blood seeping through the covering and onto the ground. As I'm looking at it, it just seems weird. The placement of the body, the tooth, the shorts, where they're at, doesn't look like a hit and run. Not that I've been aware of.
Have you ever heard them say foul play is suspected?
His right ear looks like it's got
suspicious death.
It's just something I noticed.
And again, they don't tell me everything because they don't want to ruin the investigation. But they said that they've got a couple of people in mind on the situation, and
That's interesting. So investigators had told the family in the past that they had a couple of people in mind that they were looking at. That's interesting.
they're really looking in on them. So,
are you able to tell me who those people are?
They haven't told me.
But they have said that they have a few people in mind.
Yeah.
Interesting. Somebody's got to know something.
Somebody's got to know something. You know, if there's 40 people standing around and someone, you know, walks off, somebody knows about it. So if 40 people are standing around and somebody gets into a fight, somebody knows about it, you know. And with how close everyone is, with how many pictures are taken on Snapchat, you think that something has to turn up. Somebody has to know something and just doesn't want to say it.
And has law enforcement been pretty open with you about the things that you're hearing or what they are investigating?
Somewhat, you know. They're willing to spread, like, talk about certain things, but then there's some things that's like they don't want to say too much because what if it messes up with the investigation, you know? And so there's a lot of areas that we're still in the dark about, that they know more about, and I'm hoping that they know more about the situation. That's kind of their job, and the only way we're going to get through this thing is if we're still hopeful.
Do you have any message for law enforcement or anything that you want them to know about how you're feeling or this lack of information that you're getting?
I get it. I get it that you want to protect the investigation. I get it that you want to protect the case. that way it's carried out. But quite frankly, 7 months is too long. I just hope that people see this and are able to, I don't know, just maybe it'll push someone to say something, that they understand that it's being selfless. It's for someone else. It's for the true victim. If you know something, just say it. It's better to say it and let the family have some sort of peace, to let Noah have some sort of peace, than to not say anything.
And so again, it's about
How sad is it that he had to arrive and find his brother under a tarp? Oh my God, it's absolutely heartbreaking. And okay, let me show you guys this. Because I just want you guys to be able to hear from the actual people involved, whether it was his family or friends. So 1 second. This is his sister.
Highway is no longer being investigated as a murder, despite his on a lonely highway is no longer being investigated as a murder, despite his gruesome injuries. Noah Presgrove was only wearing shoes when his body was discovered on a deserted stretch of US 81 near Terral, Oklahoma. That's about 100 miles from Dallas, Texas. News Nation has learned about the events in the hours before his death. He had been drinking at a house party with friends over the Labor Day weekend last year. 19-year-old had also rolled an ATV that he was driving with friends earlier that day. He returned to the house after that accident. He got in a fight with his girlfriend, and then he left, never to be seen alive again. Now, Presgrove suffered a fractured skull, broken ribs. His teeth were knocked out, scattered near his body. Tuesday, the county's medical examiner revealing his cause of death as multiple blunt force injuries. While the report answers how he died, the manner of death, what caused those blunt force injuries, remains a mystery. Also this week, after almost 8 months of silence, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, who is leading this investigation, gave its first update saying that they are not investigating his death as a murder. But the investigation is not over. Earlier tonight, I had the chance to speak with Noah Presgrove's sister, Madison Rawlings. Here's part of that interview. I would like to ask you how you and your family are doing first. How are you coping with all of this?
We're pretty strong. I know that we are a resilient group for sure. So I think we're handling it as best as that we can and just trying to stay hopeful and optimistic.
Hopeful and optimistic. What are you hoping the outcome will be? What does that look like going forward?
I'm just hoping that we get it all tied up and we get everything solved and all the questions that we're needing. I'm hoping that it's way less intense that we can't imagine it to be.
Yeah.
I hope that we find out that Noah went fast and that he wasn't in a situation where it would have been a lot worse. Does it make sense?
What questions do you have surrounding what happened?
I just want to know how he died. I want to know what scenario was played out that caused his death and what happened. I just want to know what happened.
And we're nearly 8 months out. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol finally providing this update that they are not investigating Noah's death as a murder. What are your thoughts on the handling of your brother's death?
I think that having some communication means there's progress. So with them saying that they're not investigating it as a murder, there's so many other things that they are able to classify it as. So maybe they have just made some progress and were able to give us that kind of update.
So we have this autopsy report released this week that shows that Noah died from blunt force injuries. It rules out him being hit by a car at that spot where he died. He was basically found unclothed. He was hit in the head, broken ribs. His teeth were knocked out. Despite all of that, though, your brother's death not being investigated as a murder, what do you think of that? What do you suspect may have happened that night?
Well, I don't want to just point my finger at anybody that I think could be involved or have any theories that are victimized.
I have a lot of respect for her to be able to say that. because I can't imagine how frustrating this must be for that family. Emotional anger, no answers, no movement. To be able to sit there and say, I'm not going to point my finger at anyone when I don't know anything, I have a lot of respect for that, because I don't know if I'd be able to do the same.
Other people too, because in the end, Noah had passed away and nothing makes sense to us. So I don't really like to just throw theories out there, because if you follow the Justice for Noah Facebook page, you will get plenty of those. You can find plenty of theories everywhere, but I do think that something happened at the party that he was attending the night before, and I just think that people know and they need to speak up.
Tell me more about that. What do you suspect may have happened at that party? And we know that one of your family members told News Nation he believes foul play was involved. Do you agree with that?
I'm not going to disagree. I have no reason to disagree, but I know there's people out there. They claim to be Noah's best friends. They claim to love Noah, and I hope with my whole heart that that is actually what happened, is that they were not involved at all. But at this point, I can't rule it out.
What is your message for people tonight who maybe were at that party, people who had their phones out, taking images, taking photos, who may have seen something and are not saying anything? What is your message to them tonight?
I just hope that they can find it in their hearts to just do the right thing. And if you're doing the right thing, then that's all that we can ask of you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation.
So if the cause is multiple blunt force trauma, but it's undetermined from what. Hey, Nicole, Andrea, I just heard of this case. So glad you're coming in. Thanks for being here, and thank you for 31 months. Wow, that is awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm gonna pull up his autopsy report. And remember earlier on, I told you guys how Caleb, which is Jack's father, and a couple of other parents went to the house and they cleaned up. I'm not going to jump to conclusions with that, even though now I have an even more questions after what Kaylee's telling us in the chat. But what I thought is, okay, they were underage. At that point, he probably thought that Noah may have been drunk, wandered out, and got hit on the road. And so your instinct is to try to protect the kids, and go and clean up the beer cans and things like that. But taking the guns and bringing them back to the house, and they aren't your guns. They weren't all his guns. They were other members' guns, other people's guns. It's strange. It's strange. All of it is strange.
Yeah, but it's a small community there, and I don't think it's I don't think it's unusual for them to do that, just because it's the small community they have there. Everybody knows each other. They all do. Everybody does favors for each other. I don't think it's that unusual. It's weird. It's weird to me. I mean, I don't think it would be unusual for them to do that. Being that it's a really small, tight-knit community down there.
Well, and I asked that too, Harlot, because Harlot's like, why were all these kinds of people's guns there? I think the same way, but I also realize
guns are common.
I'm from New York.
There.
Yeah, we don't have gun like that here.
Right.
But because I've communicated with so many people.
Everybody has guns down there. In Texas,
it's
Oklahoma.
Common there, yeah.
Yeah, it's common. It's your right. You know that. So guns are not like a big deal down there.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, Natasha. If an accident happened, okay. But the problem is that when you cover up and lie, that's an issue, right?
Right.
And I could understand panic, pure panic as a child, because I know they're legal adults, but 19-year-olds, you're a kid, and you're already doing something wrong, drinking, but this is wrong, and what could have happened to account for this type of injuries? Okay. This is his autopsy report. And all right, so let's see. Manner of death is unknown, Cause of death, multiple blunt force injuries. Okay, I don't think anything else
Who's
is
the medical examiner?
It's Leonardo
Roquero. Okay.
Okay. So crap, I keep doing that. Findings is multiple blunt force injuries of the head and neck, abraded avulsion laceration on the top left of the head, subjugant abrasions on the lateral left eyebrow, corner of the left eye, left cheek, front of the left ear with associated lacerations and left side of the neck, abrasions on the right back of the head, behind the ear, and subjugant posterior right neck, broken upper and lower teeth with abrasions on the midline mucosa of the upper lip and laceration on the midline mucosa of the lower lip, laceration on the left surface of the tongue, subcutaneous scalp and subgaleal hemorrhages on the parietal, occipital, bilateral, temporal, and left frontal regions of the head, left temporalis muscle laceration and hemorrhage, fractures of the left parietal, temporal, and frontal bones, basal skull fractures, splitting the middle base of skull into two, anterior and posterior, and extending to the left temporal and sphenoid bones and around the occipital bone. Additional separate fractures of the occipital bone extending into the edges of the foramen magnum and occipital condyles. Subdural hemorrhage of approximately 20 millimeters, bilateral subarachnoid hemorrhage, swelling of the brain with lacerations of the inferior surface of the left temporal lobe, brain stem, and its adjacent cerebral vessels and left cerebellum. Cervical fracture at C1, C2, C6, and C7, misalignment of C1 and occipital condyle, and then phunocephalus and pneumorrheitis. I don't know how to pronounce that. So the cause of death, multiple blunt force injuries, manner of death, undetermined. This is September 5th, 2023. What I did learn is that the autopsy did not get conducted until 24 hours after Noah's death, and the medical examiner was not at the scene of the crime, at the scene he was found. Now, apparently it does vary, jurisdiction, whether the ME can go to the scene or I watched a video about someone explaining it, but the fact that the scene wasn't taken really into account at the autopsy and 24 hours had passed before the autopsy was conducted was neat noodle. It was on, I think it was a News Nation interview with a medical examiner I was watching, and I have it. So and that's what the medical examiner said, is that it could be normal for 24 hours to pass, but just keep it in mind that 24 hours had passed, and the medical examiner did not go to the scene. No, so manner of death is undetermined. He also, on his torso, had broad abrasions on the upper back containing black material. Abrasions showing combined linear and vari-side pinpoint to round to irregular individual patterns involving the left upper back, shoulder, posterior left arm, and left side of the torso. Abrasions on the right buttocks. Abrasion with the vari-side pinpoint to round to irregular abrasions on the side of the left buttocks. Lacerations of the right and left lungs with contusions, left pulmonary vessels, left atrium of the heart, spleen, and proximal stomach. Soft tissue hemorrhage of the posterior upper chest cavity. Bilateral hemothoracis of at least 1,200 milliliters in toto. Hemopericardium of at least 150 milliliters. Peritoneum of at least 200 milliliters. Bilateral scapular fractures, bilateral posterior rib fractures as follows: right 1 to 5 and 8 ribs, left 2 to 5 ribs, thoracic vertebral fractures T1, T2, T4 through T9, and T11, bilateral pneumothoracis with left more than the right. The extremities included abrasions on the right arm and forearm, left elbow, thighs, knees, legs, and right foot, side of the right ankle and side of the right hip, contusion on the back of the right heel, and no evidence of fractures. In consideration of the circumstances surrounding the death, autopsy, examination, and toxicology result, the death of Noah is due to multiple blunt force injuries. The descendant was found naked, wearing only a pair of shoes on the side of a highway on the morning of September 4th, 2023. There were no vehicle parts or debris observed on the scene. At this time, what transpired on how the body was found on the road, having multiple blunt force injuries, is unknown. Therefore, the manner of death is deemed undetermined. I keep doing that. So these are the circumstances. He was found by a passing truck. He was naked, only wearing unmatching shoes. There were a pair of shorts found several feet and was reported to be his. There were 3 pieces of white metal chain, as well as part of a tooth present several feet away. There was a clump of hair found within one of the lanes of the highway, several feet from Noah. Additionally, a clump of hair was observed on the right buttocks without blood or tissue. The paved highway consisted of 2 lanes with shoulders on both sides and a speed limit of 65 miles per hour. The highway was poorly lit at night. There were no vehicle parts or debris observed on the scene. Further investigation revealed that Noah was at a party drinking on the 3rd. Then he rode an ATV Ranger vehicle with several men that had a rollover incident. Noah was alive following the incident and returned to the party, where he got into an argument with his girlfriend. Noah left the house party and was not found until the morning of September 4th on the side of the highway. Again, he doesn't have a girlfriend. So identification, it was made by visual and tag. External examination, he was sealed. He was normally developed and nourished Caucasian male, 19 years. The body measured 73 inches in length. He weighed 175 pounds. Rigor mortis was complete. The pink-purple liver mortis was present posteriorly and fixed. Wearing unmatched shoes. So the left shoe with Adidas. There was no observable damage to the shoes. No observable damage to the shoes. See, again, that's weird if it was like being hit by a vehicle. There were 3 separate brown bags labeled as follows: shorts containing a pair of white printed shorts without observable damage. So again, if he was wearing those shorts, why don't we see those shorts being damaged if they were ripped off his body? I lost my spot. Oh. Okay, so the shorts, then there was the white metal chain containing 3 pieces of white metal, and the tooth containing a broken half of a tooth consistent with a molar tooth. The scalp hair was brown. The eyes had white ciliary, pale conjunctivi, and brown iridis, having 5 millimeter dilation. There was no evidence of petechia, hematoma, injuries, or lesions present. There was no evidence of petechia, lesions of the oral mucosa. Okay. I don't want to get into all that because it's private stuff. So multiple blunt force injuries of the head and neck. Exposure of the bone on his scalp. There was blood coming out from both left and right ears. Upper lower teeth broken. Few of the fragments found inside the mouth. White abrasions around the midline mucosa of the upper lip. laceration on the midline mucosa of the lower lip, laceration of the tongue at the left ventral surface. So he had subcutaneous scalp and corresponding subgaleal hemorrhages. There was left temporalis muscle laceration, fractures of the occipital condyles, fractures of the C1. Okay. Torso. So that's okay. So revealed broad abrasions on the upper back containing black material, like the road. Abrasions showing combined linear and vari-side pinpoint to round to irregular individual patterns involving the left upper back, shoulder, posterior left arm, and left side of the torso. His lungs, man, everything. So he had abrasions on his extremities, but no evidence of fractures. Normal thoraco-abdominal and posterior coronal scalp incisions. Okay. His cardiovascular system was unremarkable. Respiratory, unremarkable. These were all unremarkable.
He was a healthy guy.
Yeah, he was healthy. He was absolutely healthy.
That's what all that says. He's just a normal, healthy guy, with exception to all his injuries.
Yep. Anterior postmortem radiographs together encompassing the head, torso, and extremities were taken, and findings were included in the evidence of injury. There was no radiopac object. And that's it. That's his autopsy report. So what do you guys think? I joined the Justice for Noah Facebook group. For anybody who is interested, there is a Justice for Noah Facebook group, and I was notified of it in that sister interview. She mentioned it. And so I want to do a part 2 where I go through kind of like what the talk is, even though I don't want to get into accusations and like, you know, but kind of like, all right, what's happened since then? What have people been saying? Has there been any videos that have come out? You know, like what's going on? And I wanted like discuss that and theories with you guys. But I think if he was hit by a vehicle, it was not at that scene. Nothing points to that scene. But I don't know, man. I don't freaking know. Without getting too graphic, I also struggle with if he was moved, the piece of scalp was found. So are we to believe someone picked that up too and brought it? You know what I mean? Like I do struggle with that part. But the lack of blood, it's just.
Kaylee, what do you mean by his fingers were shredded down to the bone?
I heard that his fingertips were shredded too, but I didn't see that on the autopsy.
I didn't see that either. I don't remember you even saying it. Girl, better buckle up. You're about to take a dive into a cluster.
Oh, I know, Natasha, and that's why I'm like, I'm not trying to point fingers or jump anywhere versus theories of what could have happened.
Yeah.
I heard that's what Kaylee, because when his sister said, I don't want to finger point or speculate too much, the Facebook group does enough of that. I'm like, all right, let me check out what this Facebook group. So I joined, but I haven't got a chance to look at it yet. His aunt said that. Hold on, I have an aunt interview. I don't know if it's the same one. Here.
Noah's poor family is trying to process all of this, and they talked about it with our Alex Capriello exclusively. Here's that interview.
Yes, I know.
Ashley,
Jones
it was
was
an
playing.
eye-opening experience speaking to the family of Noah Presgrove. We went into great detail about the autopsy report that's now in their hands, what they think happened to Noah, and the frustration they feel from not getting direct answers from his friends.
So blunt force trauma to the head, and your thoughts when reading that is that it's quite possible this might have been the hands of somebody else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's what's got me thinking that it wasn't no accident, you know. He'd been just beat in the head so many times that it just, you know, and it couldn't have been by a car. Just once I saw his face, it's just, I just couldn't do it. So I have no idea about the hair.
I can tell it's still so fresh in your mind.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, this poor woman.
It just won't go away, and it won't. And these kids, they've been hanging out here for the last 4 or 5 years, you know, with that boy. And it's just, you know, hard to believe that you could have friends like that and they all just stabbing you in the back. I've talked to a few myself, only the closest ones that I feel like I could, but not really getting nothing out of them. I mean, one of them I've gotten a couple stories, 2 different stories out of his mouth, you know, and another one I've gotten 3 different stories out of his mouth. So, you know, which story is true, you know?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is
in my heart, I just pray to God Jack has nothing to do with it, you know? I mean, because I love Jack, you know, but, you know, that was Noah's best friend. And where was he, you know? I mean, I hate to put that on him, but, you know, it keeps going through my head. They've done wrong, and they need to stand up and be a man and admit it, you know, regardless. I mean, if it was an accident, why didn't y'all just say it was and call 911? I have respect for law enforcement, but I just feel like, I just don't feel like they're doing enough right now. They're not giving us no information. They're not giving us no hope.
Oh.
And it would be nice to have a little hope. It's not going to go away, you know, until this is resolved. We will not stop until it's resolved. And that, you know, and I'm hoping that it will put pressure on them, you know, to let's get busy and get this figured out, you know, and I'm hoping it will. There you come and you tell me what happened to my grandson. You can't get over it. And I don't even know if I'll get over it then, you know.
I've made repeated attempts to get in contact with detectives with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol to try to find out the latest on their investigation, but so far, during my entire time here, I've yet to hear back. Ashley?
Alex?
So that's heartbreaking. And no, it's not right if he really was sleeping harlot. But when I think she's saying, where were you? I don't think she was saying it in an accusatory way versus you were his best friend. You were supposed to look out for one another. You know, even if it comes down to wandering off drunk, you're supposed to look out for one another. But then I think back to how I was when I was that age. Oh my, you know, like, yeah, you looked out for each other, but we also were so stupid, you know, like, and
yeah, you get in you're in your own world, you know, and then you at that point you never think something bad's going to happen.
No, but my heart breaks because it's you. Not only can you not grieve and heal, you don't even know what you're grieving. Of course, the loss of Noah, but you don't have the answers. Am I grieving a murder? Am I grieving an accident? What happened? You know, and that has got to be torture. And she even said, I don't even know when and if I get the answers, it's going to get better. And my heart breaks for that. I can't imagine. No, you're right, Harlot. You can't put that on anyone else. But I can imagine it's the cycle of emotions that you're probably going through, right? With the grief of not saying it's okay, but like it's the
that family wants answers,
anger, it's
you know, and they're very emotional, and that's, And when you're emotional, sometimes you point fingers. You just want answers. Everybody, you want to know what happened.
Yeah. But no, like if you look into every individual perspective, if Jack had absolutely nothing to do with it and he was asleep, and then he really did have to find Noah the way he was and see that's got to be extremely traumatic for him as well. But it's so, here's the thing. Somebody out there knows something. Somebody out there 100% knows something, whether it was an accident, hit and run, whatever. And this boy needs justice. He needs justice. And so I really hope, I like that his sister is a half glass full looking type perspective, because she's looking at it in the sense that even though they're saying they're not investigating it as a murder, I'm taking that as there's movement. You have to know something for you to even say we're not investigating it as a murder. But even if it was an accident, if you kept your mouth shut and covered it up, you're going to get in major trouble just from that, But I don't know. I'm going to look more into it. I'd like to, because I was listening to bits and pieces of the podcast. The family did a podcast, because I know Joneson was playing parts of that podcast, but I'd like to listen to it in full and take some good pieces and kind of go over with you guys for the next part too. I don't know if he was seeing a girl rando, but his family says he did not have a girlfriend. He was single. So even them referencing that in the autopsy was strange, because it wasn't accurate apparently. But I don't know. But I appreciate you guys all being here and staying with me. It's an interesting one. It's a bizarre one. It's currently still active under its investigation. So if you have any information, it's the Oklahoma state, not patrol. It's the, hold on, let me get it. So I'm saying
Oklahoma State Patrol, right? Or state police.
It's like the highway.
They're the county, and then I think the state police have taken the investigation, I believe.
He was seeing the birthday girl. Oh, okay.
Oh, so she wouldn't let him in her bed. So he
because he was like messing around with a girl the night before.
Right. Okay.
That's what it was. But I'm going to be doing a part 2. I'm going to look into this more. I'm going to go into that Facebook group. I'm going to pull out pieces from the podcast. And yeah, if you or anyone, has information, please reach out. And I think that more people should be covering this case. I can't believe I did not hear anything of. And then when I was researching, I'm like, oh my God, News Nation. Not that I'm like, about News Nation, but like a lot of videos started coming out and interviews, given that the autopsy was just released. And it kind of flew under the radar. I did not see. But
how can you not see News Nation? They flood my feed every 5 minutes with a new.
They do.
They slam my feed.
Yep, they
every 5 minutes another News Nation.
I know. Well, that's because they take their 1 hour show and then they divide it up into 5-minute segments on YouTube. And
well, I get every 5-minute segment. Let's just say
that. They do. But thank you for coming up here and covering it with me, Shakto.
My other one in Michigan car, 26 posted on justice for Noah. Never heard that.
Julie.
Morgan car.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one, Harlot, and
I'm in Michigan. I've never heard of that.
It's just that's an eerie thing too, though, is knowing somebody knows what happened. They have to. And it's just about finding out who that person is and getting those answers. But
they're afraid to come forward. People, they'll talk. People will talk.
Yeah.
Somebody will let it out, or someone will drop an anonymous tip. Someone will break down somewhere over some drinks and spill and tell somebody, and then that person will call law enforcement and tip them off, or something will get out.
Yeah. Because Noah deserves his own justice, and the family deserves that closure. They desperately, desperately do. Mm-hmm. But all right, guys. So I will be on tomorrow. I will see you then. We'll definitely be doing a part 2, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much, Shakto, for coming up with me, and thank you for everybody in the chat. And I'll talk to you all soon.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.